AARP is working hard to protect Social Security. After all, it's our money and we earned it through a lifetime of hard work. Social Security has been a stable and popular program since its inception, but if Congress doesn't act to protect Social Security in the next 10 years, payments could be cut. During today's presentation, we'll review the most common proposals to ensure that Social Security can pay the full payments Americans have earned. And now, I'm pleased to introduce our featured presenter, Lisbeth Meredith. Lisbeth is a retired government employee out of Alaska. She's an author of 3 books, a college instructor, and a podcast host. And fortunately for us, she is also a member of the AARP Tennessee Speakers Bureau. So, with that, thank you so much for joining us today, Lisbeth, and I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much for letting me and for that wonderful introduction. I'm excited to be a part of this today. My name is Elizabeth Meredith, as stated, and I'm a volunteer with AARP, and I look forward to facilitating today's conversation about the future of Social Security payments. AARP created this workshop because we are committed to helping you understand how Social Security is funded. We want to review with you the proposed solutions to help protect Social Security for future generations. In this session, we're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to discuss keeping Social Security funded, AARP's principles, the basics of Social Security, and we're going to go over some additional resources. We will also, of course, most importantly, be going over 5 proposed solutions for protecting Social Security. And the resources will be available at the end. This is meant to be an interactive experience where you can share your thoughts and opinions with us. Although we are virtual, there is a way to do it in the chat box. So you can do a thumbs up at the appropriate times or a thumbs down. And we have wonderful people monitoring the chat box. Since this is a public forum, please don't share personally identifying or sensitive information. And remember, consult your financial advisor for advice regarding your own personal situation. While you may have questions now that I'm not able to answer, you can get them answered later. There's an AARP tool called Your Questions Answered, appropriately, where you can search for the answer to your Social Security questions and ask a question and receive a personal answer within a few days. We'll talk more about that at the end of the presentation. Before we begin, just a couple of things to remember. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to communicate. This is certainly so when we're in person, but even here, we learn from one another. This is a judgment-free zone. There will be times where I ask for your input, and we just want to be as respectful of one another as possible. And please silence your cell phones if they are on, and make sure that you're muted unless you are speaking. Now, Social Security was created in 1935 in the aftermath of the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. It's based on the concept of social insurance, which means that all workers contribute to a central trust fund managed by the government. It's never missed a payment since it began in 1940. However, due to changes in our society and workforce, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to have a shortfall beginning in year 2035. Unless something changes, all Social Security recipients would have their payments reduced by about 20%. That's 20%, not 28%. Congress must act to make sure that Social Security can pay the full payments Americans have earned. And changing demographics are what has presented a big challenge to our Social Security funding model. The ratio of people in the workforce compared to people receiving Social Security has changed dramatically since the beginning of Social Security. In 1950, roughly 16 workers were paying payroll taxes for every retiree. That number today has slipped to about 3 workers per retiree. Furthermore, retirees are living longer and collecting payments for a greater number of years at a time when fertility rates have dropped, so there are fewer workers paying into the system. Despite these challenges, there are options to stabilize Social Security's funding, and AARP is fighting to protect Social Security. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We've developed these guiding principles in our fight to protect Social Security in alignment with our mission. AARP believes that any proposal should finance Social Security for the long term. Social Security should continue to provide a stable foundation for retirement income for workers, families, and those affected by death or disability. Social Security should continue to protect those most in need, including people who are most reliant on Social Security and those who cannot postpone retirement. Any proposal should continue to reward work by ensuring that all covered workers contribute equitably and receive payments based on their earnings, and ensure that workers' payments are clearly defined, cannot be outlived, and are protected against inflation. Any proposal should make improvements to address the economic and demographic changes over the last 90 years so that Social Security can meet the needs of future beneficiaries and their families. Now, let's get started with a little background about Social Security. We heard a little bit at the beginning with the video, but the important thing to remember is first, Americans must earn their payments. To be eligible, a worker must have earned 40 credits. That usually equals at least 10 years of work. Workers must also pay Social Security taxes to qualify to receive payments. Social Security taxes are called FICA, which stands for Federal Insurance Contributions Act. It's a tax paid by employees and employers that fund Social Security and Medicare. Social Security provides payments for retirees, individuals with disabilities, and survivors. Almost everyone contributes to the Social Security Trust Fund. Social Security payments come from money you've earned, which is why it's so important to protect them. Now let's look at data from our state. As you can see, 1.49 million Tennessee residents are currently receiving some kind of Social Security payments. And if you remember from the previous slide, those could be retirement payments, survivor payments, disability payments, or others. That's a significant number of people. The average Social Security payment amount for our state is $1,889. Compare that to your own circumstances and compare that number. What percentage of your income might you have to supplement from other sources once you retire? Now, our state does not tax Social Security, so it is important for you to understand how that might factor in to your final payment amounts. Next up, let's look at Social Security's impact on our state economy. This is the amount of people that on Social Security that are using in local shops. People are using their Social Security in restaurants and other places. That's a lot of money. That's a great example of Social Security's far-reaching effects that are often overlooked. Finally, we know that 68.4% of Tennessee Social Security recipients are retirees, and 15.5% of recipients are disabled. It's a critical part of their day-to-day lives and the only safety net many of them have. Now, let's look more closely at who receives Social Security payments. The Social Security Trust Fund is used to provide payments to individuals who are retired, disabled, or who are survivors of a deceased worker. Right now, 67 million people receive payments from Social Security, and the program keeps 16 million Americans out of poverty. In fact, over half of households 65 plus are relying on Social Security for at least half of their income. And it's the only inflation protected income most Americans will have in retirement. But it's important to note that Social Security was always intended to be a safety net to provide some income. It was never intended to be the only source of income. Despite this, recipients are using it for most or all of their income. Now that you've heard how important Social Security is and what challenges it faces, I'd like to know what thoughts you have about the future of Social Security. And you don't have to answer now, but be thinking about what's at stake for you or your family. Most Americans believe in Social Security and want leaders in Washington to address its solvency. AARP polls show that a vast majority of Americans, around 79%, believe that Social Security payments should not be reduced in any way. This isn't a partisan issue. Liberals, moderates, and conservatives all strongly agree that Social Security provides security for all Americans, and without it, the people who count on it most would really suffer. AARP polls show that 87% of Americans say that Congress should act now rather than waiting another 10 years to find a solution. And the sentiment to preserve and protect Social Security holds strong across gender, age, and party affiliation. Now that we've seen how important Social Security is to so many Americans, we're going to review the 5 proposed solutions that Congress could use to protect Social Security. We're going to go through them one by one using your worksheet as a guide. So go ahead and get that handout and something to write with ready now, and we'll discuss the potential impact each solution could have on the funding gap based on the information from Social Security. As we consider these proposed solutions, keep in mind there is not likely one solution that will fully fund Social Security. It's more likely that Congress will arrive at a combination of all or some of these solutions. AARP is calling for Congress to ensure that all legislation to adjust Social Security go through its regular legislative process and not be done as part of any debt reduction effort. It's important that the process of looking at solvency options is as transparent as possible to the public. So let's get started looking at the possible solutions. The first solution is eliminating or raising the wage cap. Let me explain what wage cap means. In 2025, Social Security taxes are only paid on the first $176,100 of wage earnings. This threshold of the taxable maximum, or tax max, that's what that tax max is. That's that threshold. Any earnings above the taxable maximum are not subject to the Social Security payroll tax. That means that people who make $1 million stop paying into Social Security at the end of February every year. Various proposals would help close the shortfall by either removing this cap altogether or setting it higher to capture the large amount of wage growth above the cap. Most of these proposals would increase payments to reflect those higher earners' contributions, but at a lower rate of return. What's the potential impact of this option on the funding gap? It might fill anywhere from 30 to 70% of the gap. So let's look at some of the pros and the cons of this solution. Pros: removing or increasing the cap would significantly increase the revenue for Social Security, potentially closing a large portion of the funding gap. It could extend the solvency of Social Security for several decades at least. The cons is it is a partial solution. Eliminating or increasing the cap alone would not fully solve Social Security's long-term solvency issues. In addition, without corresponding changes to payments, these increased contributions at the high end would result in very large Social Security checks for high-income earners. So, what's your gut reaction to this solution? If you think it's doable, in the chat box, look for that little emoji and give me a thumbs up.
And Lizbeth, this is Lisa with AARP.
Lisa.
I'm monitoring the chat, and it looks like the general consensus is that they do like. We're getting thumbs up, and one
Good.
person has also shared this is a logical and fair solution.
I
And
love it. Thank you,
yeah.
Lisa.
You're welcome.
Now, for anyone who doesn't feel that way, and this is a judgment-free zone, feel free to give us a thumbs down. And there probably are people who are not quite sure just yet, and that's okay too. So we'll just wait that one out, and we'll table that until you've had time to think about it. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
The second solution is a proposal to increase the FICA tax over time, raising both the employer and the employee shares of payroll tax. Currently, employees and employers each pay 6.2% payroll tax on the first $176,100 of annual wages, which is part of the FICA tax on your paycheck. All variants of this proposal would phase this increase. It would phase in over time and increase both employer and employee share of the payroll tax. Now let's look at the potential impact of this option on the funding gap. Increasing the payroll taxes 1 to 2% might fill anywhere from 25 to 50% of the gap. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this solution too. The pros: raising the payroll tax rate would significantly increase the funds available for Social Security, helping to close the funding gap. Since the payroll taxes are paid by both 183 million current employees and their employers, a relatively small increase in the payroll tax for both employees and their employers would have a significant positive impact on Social Security's finances. The cons: taxes have an impact on the economy. Higher payroll taxes could reduce disposable income for workers and increase labor costs for employers, potentially impacting economic growth and employment. It's also a partial solution. While raising payroll taxes would help, it might not be sufficient on its own to fully address long-term solvency issues, necessitating additional measures. And there could be significant bipartisan political opposition, increasing payroll taxes on all workers and their employers, even if only on higher earners. So, and Lisa will help with this in the chat box, but what's your gut reaction to this solution? If you think it's doable, give a thumbs up. If this one doesn't sound like a good option, a thumbs down. And it's absolutely fine to be undecided and to mull it over and make up your mind later.
And Lizbeth, it's about 50-50. We have about the same amount of thumbs ups and thumbs downs for this.
Great, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Okay, that's interesting. And the third possible solution is raising the full retirement age. The current full retirement age is 67 years old for anyone born in 1960 or after. This solution would raise it to anywhere from 68 to 70 years old. As you think about this one, consider that people are living longer than they did back in 1935 when Social Security was founded. This change could happen over time to protect those currently near retirement, much like it did the last time Congress raised the full retirement age in 1983. The early claiming of age 62 would still need to be preserved because it's important for those who do arduous work or who have health or caregiving challenges. However, for every year the full retirement age is increased, payments for those who claim at 62% would be cut roughly by 6%. Additionally, because of the long phase-in time, savings to the program would likely not take effect for several decades. This option might fill the funding gap anywhere from 5% to 30%, depending on what the full retirement age is raised to. There are pros and cons to this solution as well. The pros: gradually increasing the full retirement age would significantly extend the solvency of Social Security Trust Fund by reducing the number of years payments are paid out and increasing the reduction in payments for early retirement. As some people live longer, another advantage is raising the full retirement age aligns with increased life expectancy, ensuring the system remains sustainable. Yet, there are cons. And the cons: raising the full retirement age effectively reduces payments for all new retirees because they would have to wait longer to receive full payments or accept reduced payments if they retire earlier. While life expectancy has increased overall in recent decades, not everyone is living longer, especially those with lower incomes. Moreover, not everyone can work longer, including those in physically demanding jobs. So, what's your gut reaction to this solution? If you think it's doable, give me a thumbs up. And if it doesn't sound like a good solution, a thumbs down. And let's table it for those who are unsure. Take notes and have more food for thought as you consider these options.
And Lizbeth, it is about, again, 50-50. We have several likes and dislikes. I also have
Wonderful.
we've received a couple comments, which I'll share from the chat. People are living longer, but some people have work that wears out their bodies. Another comment is no, that the reason why they say no is raising the age assumes employers will keep you employed. So it is about still split in half.
Okay. Love it. All right, great. Thank you. Thanks. And then next, the fourth option. So these great feedback, you all, and good discussion. And the fourth option we'll go over is reducing payments for people with higher incomes. Social Security is set up so that even though people with lower wages receive lower Social Security payments overall, they get a larger proportion of their contributions back in retirement than do those with higher incomes. Some proposals would change the payment formula to return even less money proportionally to those who earned more during their lifetimes. Another approach would be some form of means testing, which would base the high-earning person's payment on their income and assets at retirement, opposed to what they paid into the system during their career. What's the potential impact of reducing payments for higher earners? It might fill anywhere between 15 to 30% of the funding gap. So let's move to the pros and the cons of this option. The pros: by reducing payments for those who are less dependent on Social Security, significant savings can be achieved without impacting quality of life. This approach makes the system more progressive, ensuring that those who need payments receive them. Those who need the payments the most receive them, I should say. The cons are reducing or especially eliminating payments for high-income earners might be seen as unfair by some, potentially undermining Social Security's popularity as an earned payment and potentially leading to public resistance. By now, you know the drill. I mean, like, what does your gut tell you on this one? What's your gut reaction? If you think it's doable, and again, no judgment. If you think it's doable, please give me a thumbs up. And if it doesn't sound like a very good option, a thumbs down.
And the looks of this one is we have a maybe, but generally almost everyone that has commented is a thumbs up for this solution 4. And we
Oh,
have
okay.
received a couple thumbs down.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. It's just a lot of solutions to mull over. Okay, so let's review the last potential solution, finding other funding sources. We talked about this earlier, but Social Security is self-funded through payroll taxes. No other funds, including the general fund, are used to pay Social Security payments. This solution proposes using other funding sources to close the future funding gap. There are several other funding sources to consider, including using money from the general fund for Social Security, or taxing other forms of income, like investment income, to include workers who do not earn income through wages. Number 3, creating a private market investment fund to help fund the Social Security Trust Fund. Lawmakers could borrow initial deposits, which would be paid back over time as the new investment grows over time. So that investment fund would have a chance to grow over time. It's a little easier to talk about the pros and cons of this solution. The pros: use of general funds would provide quick source of funding for Social Security without Congress having to make politically difficult choices of raising taxes or cutting payments. The cons are diverting money from general fund would increase the federal deficit or reduce funding for other programs, possibly both. This approach might face significant political opposition because it involves substantially adding to already high debts and deficits or reallocating existing resources from other priorities. Now, this is our last option that we're looking at. What is your gut reaction to this solution? If you think it's doable, give a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. And if you're unsure, you can table it, write down your notes, put it in the chat, whatever feels right for you.
For this one on solution 5, just to share the comments, this one is majority so far thumbs down. One person
Okay,
also stated a good investment with low risk is good, but this one is more of a thumbs down.
thank you. So we've reviewed the 5 potential solutions for protecting Social Security. Now that we've done it, what would you do about Social Security's funding, and what options would you choose to ensure full Social Security payments are available to you and to your loved ones? Let's return to the worksheet and review the solutions we've covered. If you take just a moment to rank each option from 1 to 5, with 1 being the option you like most and 5 being the option you like least. And I think we now know which you like least. Okay.
And we do
Anyone?
have a quick
Oh,
question, Lizbeth.
yes.
If we have the worksheets, and I'm not sure if Rob can drop those into chat or if we'll be sending those after the session.
Good. Okay. So some may have it and some may not. So even if you don't, just mulling over, and thank you, Lisa. If you mull over which solution you like best and prioritize it in your head, that's very helpful. It did sound like the last possible solution was the least favorite, but listing them just in your own list of priorities, what sounded best to you, and moving on down. And I love that you've had a chance to participate, and thank you so much for participating in this activity. I do know what was most unpopular, which was the last one, but Lisa, can you tell even from the chat box what was most popular? There's a lot to think about for future generations.
From the notes that I have here, solution 2, I believe, was the most popular as far as thumbs up.
Great.
And
Wonderful.
solution 3 was there were several as well for solution 3.
Good.
It's
And
pretty
I think
mixed. Yeah, except for
Yep.
solution 5, they're all pretty mixed, with solution 2 being the highest from who we received a thumbs up from.
I also like that we have agreement on one of the solutions being maybe not something that people are wanting to entertain at this time. So, and for very good reasons. So
And
excellent.
Beth, sorry to interrupt. A couple people have also put directly into chat based on your statement is option 1. So we are seeing people say option 1.
Terrific. Okay. Fantastic. Now, I think the main thing to remember in summary is that Congress has several options to address the program's long-term fiscal challenges, but all of them have their benefits and their drawbacks. Now, as we look at this, we have to discover even more about these options. Visit the websites on your slide, and there's a free interactive and educational websites are listed on the worksheet that we do have called You've Earned It, Options for Making Social Security Secure for the Future, that accompanies this presentation. And I think you can see where to find that. You may even pull it up on your phone while we're here together. Now, you can find out more information about Social Security solvency options at the AARP resources on your screen. Rest assured that AARP will never stop fighting to make sure you get the money you've earned. You've worked hard and paid into Social Security, so it's only fair for you to expect Congress to protect it for the future. AARP will keep fighting to make sure government keeps its promise to you so your family and future generations can continue to count on Social Security just as millions of Americans have for 90 years.
Well, thanks, Elizabeth. Great job today. I hope that all of you found this information as valuable as I did. To find out more, go to aarp.org/TN. Thanks again for joining us and have a great day.